Okay, we are back for another edition of the Astro Weather. I am Robert Phoenix. I'm joined by the dynamic duo of Peachy and Jasper this morning. Here's Peachy, the Astro Weather cat. Look at her little bag of fur. And then here's the astrological cat chiming in as well, right here. We got dual cat action this morning. And Jasper was feeling very frisky. He was at the top of the cat condo. We were racing up there. King of the jungle. So there you go. How is everyone today? Both, yeah. We got although we only have one. Apparently there can only be one. And that's the king. The king is here. Where'd your girlfriend go? Oh, did you hear that? So she's gone. She's gone. Yeah. We get attached to our little four-leggeds, don't we? Okay, let's do a little bit of a roll call here. Let's see who's in the his house. Look at Penny. I beat him. Julie Sunshine. Look at that. I'm excited. I can't deny it. About to lose control, and I like it. All right. Wow. It's the Pointer Sisters from Oakland, California. That was a big hit, wasn't it? Barbara Boots, Good Luck to Inky, KK, California Contrarian, Kabuki Theater, there's Bo. Road Trip, Darlene, 1981, what's going on? The new next, she's saying, frankly, Robert dear, you are truly remarkable. You know, that was Kirk's adversary. She was a Romulan commander. You know, that was one of the things about Star Trek. Quite often the women were eye candy, but also were given roles at times where they were equal to James T. Kirk. So it was a very diverse show, right? It was the model of the new world. That's right. Jackie Delario's here. What's going on, Jackie? Jackie? Jackie Blue. There's Lynn. Think of Feliz. What's going on, Lynn? Ole Kobe. Ferris checking in from California. I'm curious why so many astrologers have their eyes on spring of 2026. Well, that's when Uranus enters back into Gemini, and Neptune will have already been there along with, not Gemini, but Neptune and Saturn will have re-entered Aries, and so we'll have the final. I think Uranus may take another little retrograde. I think it does, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that's when Uranus goes back into Gemini, and things are just going to be weird. Just get ready for 3 years of Weird War 3. That's what it's going to be, Weird War 3. It's funny. I was watching Jason Whitlock, and he had this. He had a guest, but the guest was a clip. It wasn't like I wasn't seeing the segment as it came out. It was a clip that he played a couple times, and he said something that was really interesting. And I guarantee you, this guy is not an astrologer, but he said that some people say that over the next 3.5 years, we're going to see the rise of Christian nationalism. And he talked about how some people may not like having other people's views forced upon them, right? And he said, my answer to that is like abortion. He said, well, my answer to that is, maybe that baby doesn't like your view forced upon them and mutilated and killed. So basically, tough shit, right? And look, I lean into the pro-life thing, but I thought that was interesting when he said that, because he was affirming basically for the next 3 years, we're going to have Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries. And that is something that myself and David and others have been talking about, which is the sign in the sky that we're moving towards a more kind of proto-authoritarian Christian nationalist state, that this is what it's going to look like. And there he is. He's on Whitlock, and he's basically confirming this, right? So that's part of what you have to look forward to in February of this year, or 2026. And then Uranus comes in the spring, and we're off to the races. And it's Weird War 3. There you go. Just a little tease over on 15. It's not going to be a really long show. I'll probably go for about 45 minutes. But I found something really interesting, and it has to do with a prophet of Smith. And it's not in any of the, it's not in the Book of Mormon, and it's not in any other periodicals, but it does come up in a letter to a Bishop Wentworth, I believe, where Joseph Smith talks about a civil war that will break out in an American city that is very prominent in our current news cycle. So I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about the significance of the Charlie Kirk assassination being in Utah, in Mormon land, and how the Mormons might be much bigger players than we give them credit for. So I'm going to, if you join me over on 15, that's what I'll be covering today. So I hope you can do that. Let's see, who else do we have? There's Neil Smith, the Big Cheese. What's going on, Neil? Great to see you. Lana Winkler, getting ready to hibernate. Stephanie Hunter's here. There she is, the lovely and talented one. Bill Smith, what's up, Bill? Diane Evans is here on time. Hallelujah. That makes two of us, Diane. There's, see, Bo is here. Hi, Bo. Hello back. Desi Logan, Clean Sheets, Savory Mints, and Robert in the chat. There you go. That sounds like a good evening, a good end of the day. Miss Nikki, he's here. There he is. Mark S. What's happening? Glemma Thor at the door. It is Thursday. That's right. Thursday. Jasper looks certain. Jasper is a big putty tat. He is the biggest softie you'll ever meet. He'll drool on you. Sweet Woodruff checking in from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Valeria Rubin, Soul Traveler, Ratchet Boo. The Central Coast of California, one of my favorite places in the world. If you haven't been to the Central Coast of California, you got to get there before they shut the gates. It's an amazing area. Carmel Valley, Monterey. Man, it's really Pismo Beach. It's really cool. Avila Beach, love it. Fantastic. And then eventually it just kind of just bleeds into Santa Barbara. And Santa Barbara's got its own sort of paradise there. Struggling with motivation. Bit of music is the remedy. There you go. I'll get you moving. Thanks, Tom. You can buy me a coffee there. And also, we have Jasper right in the center of the QR code, if you feel so inclined. No, you're going to chase those birds. Janine's here. Hi, Janine. Laura E. Let's see. Who else do we have here? Time to move to the country. Yes, indeed. I think so. Maria DeAnge. What's happening, Maria? Good to see Christine Mose. We got a Christine Mose sighting. Thinking about you. There's Janice Phillips. What's happening, Janice? Heck yeah, buddy. You know what's good? French fried fucking artichoke hearts. That's what's good. Go out there in Watsonville, California, get yourself some French fried artichoke hearts. If you've never had a real French fried artichoke heart, and I'm not the ones that you get out of the jar that are marinated. No, you don't want those. You want just the fresh artichoke heart, right? Steamed, not marinated. They dip them in that batter. Oh man, it rivals fish and chips. Let me tell you. Look at that, Steve Letro got back from his Hawaii dive. There you go, Steve. Steve knows how to live. Emmy's here. Hi, Emmy. Nice to see you. Let's see. Buy Orange Kitty Drools on you too. Carol Moore needs some gloves this morning to let the chickens out. How about that? Speaking of Steve, back to back, Zerlith Eternal. He's with us. Good to see you. All right, how's everybody doing? How was your days yesterday? Did you guys move and groove? Shake and bake. Christina Maria, yes, you did make it. Good to see you. I've never tried artichoke. Wow. Artichokes are a freaking revelation. I love them. I love the artichoke. I remember when my parents introduced me to artichokes as a kid. It was like, what is this? I want more. I want more of this artichoke. That's what I want. But when you deep fry them, oh my God, it's the best. The absolute best. Where are we? Artichokes are delicious. Yes, indeed. They certainly are. All right, let's do a little weather here. Look at that. It's 8:12 and I'm already getting into the weather. Look how economical. Got all these new permissions. Good with pasta. Yeah, I've had it. Absolutely. Lisa Ann White's here. Hi, Lisa. They're also pretty good on pizza, believe it or not. They're pretty good on pizza. A lot of uses for artichokes. They even have artichoke soup. I think it's a Greek thing. You'll definitely give them a go. You will not be disappointed, Desley. You'll not be disappointed. 119 watching, only 35 likes. Thank you, Maria. There you go. Just move that, open that window and come on back. I'm Italian. My grandparents use them a lot. I can see why. They're one of, and they look funny, right? They just look funny. They look like they're from, I don't know. They look Tartarian. It looks like a Tartarian food. Like there's something about an artichoke that probably has some golden mean measurements in it by the way that it kind of crowns up and everything with all the flaps and the leaves. It's like you could probably use that form for just about anything, right? I can see those leaves coming out being like solar panels. And anyway, you got me thinking about artichokes. All right, here we go. We are still in the maelstrom. It's a lot of you are sensitive, right? A lot of you are sensitive, and being sensitive has its upside. You're attuned to nature. You're attuned to things that are very subtle. You probably have an artistic and creative side, but at the same time, being sensitive also can have its downside, meaning that sometimes you'll feel things that you don't know where they're coming from. Are they emanating from you, or are they these kind of ambient feelings or ambient sensations that you're picking up on. And I feel like we're in this time. We just came out of, what is it, the 3 year? Has it been 3 years or 2 years? Everything's a blur at this point. I think it's probably 3 years now of October 7th. And now apparently they've had some kind of peace accord now that they've signed. And I don't know the details to that. But it's interesting because I think they just came through Yom Kippur. So it's a time of atonement. However, in Judaism, there's something called the Kol Nidre. And the Kol Nidre is basically atoning for all the things you did wrong from one Yom Kippur to the next. But built into that atonement is a tacit agreement that you can backslide and go back on your word in the year ahead. It's almost like you're front loading. It's like a cultural front loading of being able to, how shall we say, massage reality, right? So this agreement has just come off of Yom Kippur and the Kol Nidre between Israel and I believe the United States and Hamas. I mean, we have to see this thing sort of fleshed out, right? But it's almost like they couldn't do it before Yom Kippur. They had to put it off after Yom Kippur. And whether or not it sticks, we'll see. We'll see if it actually winds up being a reasonable agreement. But I bring it up because it's, what's happening in Israel, what's happening on the streets of the United States, and like if you weren't paying attention to the news, it'd be really interesting to see how you felt. Right? Would the world just go on without you, or would you just go on without the world, and you wouldn't have any ambient effect, or wouldn't have any ambient effect on you? My sense is that for the most part, yes. But because people are just wired to be sensitive, I think ultimately they wouldn't need the news, that we're these weather vanes and we're picking up on these emanations. So when we go through a time like this with a chart like this and all these hard angles and all these oppositions and dealing with at least one yod coming out of a period where we had or in conjunction coming out of a period where we had a yod, like this would be symbolic of the underlying tension that people would be feeling, particularly in the sign of Scorpio. And we got into some of this yesterday. And Scorpio is like Jaws. It's like cue up the dun 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 dun. It's this thing that's moving beneath the surface of the water, and it's potentially deadly, right? Now, unfortunately, sharks got a bad name with Jaws. I mean, they really took it on the chin after Jaws came out, because there would be stories where sharks would, invariably you hear about a shark will beach itself for whatever reason. And instead of trying to get the shark back in the water, people beat the shit out of the shark. It's like, fuck you, Jaws, fuck you. I mean, that actually happened. The shark's like, Jesus Christ, get me back in the fucking water. What did I do to deserve this? Great white sharks matter. It's okay to be a great white shark, please. But I'll remember this, motherfuckers. Next time you come out here, we got your number. Anyway, this is kind of the effect here with Scorpio. Now, you could have some great transits with Mars and Mercury. Let's say you're a Cancer, early degree Cancer, early degree Pisces. You're going to love this. Like, this is going to make you feel good, especially Mars, right? It'll give you a sense of feeling alive and in your body and being instinctual. And Mars in Scorpio is very erotic. So if you're a water sign and you're clicking in here between, say, 3 and 12 degrees or 3 and 15 degrees, like you're loving this. If your sun is in 3 or 15 of a water sign, you're digging it. And even Mercury gives you kind of a extrasensory perception, kind of instinctual edge. So not all these aspects are going to, hit everybody equally, right? If you're an earth sign, you'll get some benefit here as well. If you're between these degrees right now, right between 3 and 15, with the exception of Taurus, because it's going to be opposite your sun. And we're still in the Taurus moon, which is, Taurus moon is nice. It's grounded. It's earthy. It was so grounded and so earthy. I had beef enchiladas last night. I may regret the corn chips though. I may regret the corn chips, but it's the one thing you can get here in Texas. It's pretty good enchilada. Anyway, but by and large, right, we're looking at this from an inert standpoint, meaning that this is going to be the energy that we're reading here today. And again, we have this sesquisquadrate with Mars and Saturn going on. And it feels to me like if we're just going to read this, like the sesquisquadrate is like the pebble in the shoe. It's like annoying. It's like an annoying thing that you can manage. And it takes more time maybe to take your shoe off and get it out than to get to where you're going. Do you ever do that? Right, you just go in your head, you're like, I'm almost there. Let me just get there. I don't have, and I'll deal with it when I get there. It's kind of like that, but it's still annoying. So this is the underlying current here. Now, remember, Saturn rules culture, or what passes for culture these days, since it feels like we're in a version of idiocracy most of the time. But there's something, this is what I'm talking about. Like there's a sense that something is inherently wrong and things are not necessarily fitting together with the big picture. I mean, all you got to do is revisit the Charlie Kirk event, which happened where? In Utah. That should give you kind of a interesting little sidebar for our talk about the Joseph Smith's prophecy for the next Civil War. So there's that lingering in the air. And not only that, but all the unfinished business, all the things that have happened that we have been lied to or had the wool pulled over because people are starting to figure it out. They're starting to realize that it doesn't matter who's president or what side is in office. You're going to get one side of the same coin. And people are starting to wake up and smell the napalm. And that creates so what comes first, the chicken or the egg? It creates a disquieting effect. Right? It creates a disquieting effect. Now, as it creates a disquieting effect, it affects more people, and more people kind of feed into the feedback loop where it's like something's not right. Right? We're in it now. We're in the something's not right phase. The amount of denial that's there can no longer be shoved aside. Right. So, and I'm seeing this. I'm seeing people wake up. I'm seeing people on the left wake up. I'm seeing people on the MAGA right wake up. They're walking away from Trump because he's not delivering on any of the promises. everything is still very expensive and getting more expensive. He's not delivering. And his dalliance with Israel is costing him a significant part of his base. Right? So this is a byproduct of the disquieting nature of the time that we're in. Now, if we go over to the other side of the chart, we'll find the moon in Taurus, and that's on a personal level. And the moon here is exalted. So having things that taste good, having things that feel good on your body, being out in nature, this is a great time for that. A really great time for that. And we'll have this moon in Taurus until tomorrow. And then it moves into Gemini. We've got basically Friday, like midday Friday through Saturday. And then by Sunday night, we got the moon in Cancer. And that'll be cool. We got a new sponsor we're bringing on. And having the launch with the moon in Cancer would be really good. Really good. Particularly because it's these are household products that you can use. So the RX for today, and this moon is in second decan. So it's in the Virgo decan, and it's trining Venus, which is in the Taurus decan. So that's kind of interesting, right? So nature is your friend today. I'm even going to get out. I'm going to go out my backyard today. I'm going to sit in my backyard. And I'm going to put my feet on the ground. I'm going to watch the squirrels fight for food. It's like ancient Rome back here with the squirrels. It's gladiatorial. But this is the RX for today, right? The prescription for today. And it's the cap on top of the kite. Right? We got a lot of geometry here going on. We also have a mystic rectangle between Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus. That's the cat that manages to land on its legs during a time of crisis aspect. If you have a mystic rectangle in your chart, consider yourself fortunate. It's a very interesting little piece of geometry. Right. It can be challenging. It can be a bit challenging when it's on one of the angles. If you have a transit on one of the angles, but you're dealing with something that's theoretically outside of you, but at the same time, you're also dealing with two sextiles to remedy that. So it's an interesting piece to have. And then over here, we don't quite have another grand trine, but if we did, we'd have another cap on it. With Jupiter, Uranus, and Saturn, and they're all kind of working together over here. And this is very, very, very transpersonal. So think of Uranus as like a turbine or turbo, right? So we're getting Uranus in the turbo with Saturn. And also it's over there the closer the Venus gets to Libra, we get into that trine with Uranus. And, people like to use the word quantum healing or the phrase quantum healing, but this is available with the Venus-Uranus trine. And usually Venus in Virgo tends to be real picky, right? Like you're not good enough. You're not good enough. This person isn't good enough. But the trine with Uranus, like, changes that. And it makes it like a tad more Aquarian. So there's more latitude. And I feel like this Venus-Pluto trine as well, the closer Venus gets into that, that last decan and gets tighter into that trine, the net effect is deep appreciation for your relationships. So take stock of them. And do something unexpected for somebody with that Venus-Uranus trine. Whatever it is, to show your appreciation for them. Now, just make sure that they're deserving of it. Ye cast not pearls before swine. But if they are, you got that nice little Venus Jupiter sextile. Not that it has to be wholly transactional, but it's also an investment in the future. And that whatever it is that you're doing for another person comes back to you twofold or threefold or fourfold. And it's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing. So that's a little RX for you today. We're still in the Venus-Saturn opposition. And, that one's a little more tricky, right? And to me, like Saturn in Pisces retrograde is administrators that have no clue what they're doing. And Venus and Virgo is pretty together, right? Even though it's in its fall. Venus and Virgo is in its fall. So it's not the happiest place for Venus. Again, it's kind of nitpicky, but over the course of the next few, it's a good thing we have the weekend coming, because by the time Venus gets into opposition, real tight opposition on Saturday, most of you will not be at work. Thank God for that, because you may not be able to handle the lack of appreciation. Let's put it that way. The lack of appreciation. Now you'll have other things to deal with, but it won't. If you work on the weekend, well, you'll feel it. I mean, that's just kind of how it works, right? We also have a yod, and that yod is just about. It's just what is it? Just coming into 25. It's just right at the edge of 25, 24. So we're in that 3-degree orb with that yod. Try not to be. It's really tricky, because being critical of what you need in a relationship it's kind of important with the yod, or the quincunx rather, the inconjunct. It's kind of critical. But at the same time, what reminds me of? There's this movie with Eddie Murphy. What the fuck is the name of that movie? He plays like this Black Cary Grant kind of character. It's actually pretty good. And at the beginning of the movie, he has a one-night stand with this really stunning woman, right? And then after they have their romantic moment, he pulls back the cover and he looks at her toes, and he's creeped out by her toes, and he winds up kicking her out of bed. That's kind of like this Venus and Virgo inconjunct Chiron. If you go out looking for imperfection, you will find it. This inconjunct will help you find it. If you want to correct your attitude and your position with so-called imperfections, it can be helpful. So it's back there. You can't deny it. Now the trick is like, do you need to look at it and say, yeah, this may not be perfect, but I can live with it? Or is it more like, this is really getting my attention and I can't live with it? That's Virgo. It's mutable. Either way, that's part of the equation. Mars is out of that square with Pluto. I think we've kind of passed out of a bit of a danger zone there. Do you know what I mean? Juno just went into Sagittarius. So this is a really, really good time to study some form of philosophy, whatever it is. Some people get religious and they read the Bible. I was getting into it last night. I was watching a podcast on Gnosticism, learned a few things that I didn't know about. So, here we have Juno, and it's fertile, right? It's fertile for expanding your awareness, expanding your mind. And because of its relationship with Vesta, it's not ephemeral pop culture stuff, right? It's long lasting, meat on the bone, kind of ancient wisdom. So it's a really good time to do that. And these transits with the asteroids tend to linger. So it's also first decan. So you're getting the fullness of Juno and Sagittarius. So, if you're interested in that sort of thing, it's a really good time. And you can, expand your awareness around it, right? All right. Why don't we get into the star of the day? Okay. I'll put up the banner. We got a robust 200 folks in here today. Thank you all for being here. All right, here we go. So before I get into this, I was not aware that Louise Hay stole her doctor's work. Somebody brought that up yesterday. Who was that? I think it was Spirit Gardner. She brought it up. I had no idea. So, because I was never really into the Louise Hay world. So honestly, I didn't know a lot about her. I was just picking up some things and reading her chart, and you can see her in her chart. But I'd have to go back and I'd have to look at her chart again. Plagiarism is not uncommon, by the way, in the publishing world. There are two very well-known people. I'm not going to say their names, but both of them basically plagiarized their first books. And let's just say they're both named David. And they had to cop to it with their publisher, who I'm friends with. One of them kind of got sued. Not kind of, did get sued by the person who actually wrote the majority of the book that was published in another country. Anyway, but plagiarism is not uncommon in the publishing world. Let's put it that way. All right, let's talk about True Hemp Science. It is by far the best CBD you can find on the internet and off. I'll give you a little visual here. Here's some Solara. And all you got to do is go there, spend $100 more, type in 15MINS. You'll get the goodie bag, the vaunted goodie bag, and you'll get some neat little things to go along with your order. $150 will get you free shipping. There's always a 30-day money-back guarantee. And guess what? You can call them up, make an appointment, go through their product, and find what's right for you. There you go, truehempscience.com. All right, let's talk Bella Hadid. I got to say, that necklace and the ensemble, pretty badass. It is pretty, that's an amazing piece of work. I'm not talking about Bella Hadid. I'm talking about this. That's an amazing piece of work. And you have to have this kind of, deep plunging neckline to accentuate and accessorize. This is a very Libra thing. Have you noticed, by the way, that most of the stars of the day have been women? Now, I don't know how conscious I am of that, but it just happens to be that most of the stars of the day for this month have been women. Anyway, Bella Hadid is a model, and she has a sister named Gigi, and they're Palestinian, and they have lineage going back way back to like some kind of Muslim saint whose name escapes me, if there is such thing as. I just kind of glanced over it. But if you look at her chart, like, it's accentuated by the moon, right? When you look at her face, if you look at her face straight on, it's very oval. And you'll see this with Cancer rising and people that have moon on the ascendant or moon in the first house. And she has a Venus moon conjunction, which is very feminine, right? So you get a dose of her femininity as part of her profile. we have her profile there. And she's always Virgoed up. There's never a hair out of place. There's never a stitch or a accessory out of place. You'll see this with Virgo rising people. And I think she's more than just a pretty face. She's got Mars and Leo, which is very creative. And it's in the 12th house. So she may have some haters, especially with the moon here in Black Moon Lilith. But, if you have Mars in the 12th house, this is what I tell people who have Mars in the 12th house. You're better off working on your own and working alone. And sometimes it can be a bit lonely, but it's the best thing you could do with Mars over there. And if it's in a creative sign, all the better, right? And she's pretty loaded with Libra. She's got Mercury, and then she has a Sun and True Node, and she's getting really close. She's born in an eclipse cycle, right? Like 3 days later, that moon is over here, part of the True Node, and this is the synodic cycle, so the moon would be here. So we would consider her to be part of the eclipse cycle. If it's, this is her pre-eclipse moment, but it's also, being sort of born on and around an eclipse. And people that have this tend to have a fated path through life, right? Good or bad. It's sort of like, and I'm not a huge believer in fate, but clearly the eclipse moments tend to bring that out more than any other aspect in astrology. And it's also interesting that the second house is how you make your money. And she makes her money by being Venus or a representation of Venus and being a model. And her part of fortune is there. What do you know? And Chiron is there as well. So the big turning point for her was around the age of 19. And I don't know if that's when she started to model or not. But I look at this chart and I wonder how long she'll be a model. She's got, she has the potential for disillusionment. And it is the Neptune square to the sun, right? Potential for disillusionment. She also has Uranus squared, and it can happen quickly. Like this is somebody who could say, "I'm done. I no longer want to be a model." Like it could happen very, very quickly. So I could see this, and who knows? Maybe she would, want to indulge in more art or something like that, right? Because she also has this balsamic moon, and there's a letting go. It's not it's not like it's a I don't know what, like 28 Virgo or something like that, putting it right here, or even at the early degree of Libra. That would be really, really balsamic, but it's there, right? And so at some point she'll have to let go of things that are seemingly important to her. And the square to Pluto may not make it easy, because there are people who might depend on her being successful and famous, i.e., perhaps her family. So it could be very, very difficult. And if I were to talk to this gal, I would say, be careful who you date and who you bring into your life, because she's got Persephone written all over her. With the Venus-Pluto square, the Moon-Pluto square. So she would be, and also, even though she looks very worldly and has gone through the model mill, right? There's something about her charts, at least growing up, that is extremely innocent. There's a purity with Virgo on the ascendant. And the Pluto square is the desecration of that purity. So, she's somebody who would kind of fall into experience, and not necessarily a good one. I don't have a list of her boyfriends in front of me, but if I were her advisor, I'd say, yeah, you better it's better for you to be in a long-term and committed relationship with the right person than fuck around and find out with the wrong one. And then this is somebody who I would actually, believe it or not, preach abstinence to. I'm not sure she's capable of it. She's got Jupiter in Capricorn here, trining Venus and trining the moon. It's kind of bleeding into the 5th house. So she'll have plenty of romantic suitors, obviously, because that's just the way the game goes, right? But this is also a chart where there's the potential for overreach because we have another square going on here. So her sun, if she can keep intact with her energy and be creative and not just be a pretty face, I think it'd be very helpful for her. And she's got a sister, and her sister's also a model. So we have Pluto down here. I wonder if there's any rivalry with Pluto. I wonder if they've beefed over the same guy. That would be an interesting astrological phenomenon, wouldn't it? Saturn's the highest planet in her chart, and it's kind of bleeding into the 8th house, right? And there's Juno there, and then this is somebody who more than likely would experience an abortion, by the way. I'd be surprised if that hasn't happened. This is Juno, it's live. South Node in Aries, kind of been there, done that, and Saturn, heavy. So this is definitely abortion territory. And again, her father, I think, plays a pretty significant role in her life, right? And men and older men in general would play a significant role with that Pluto Saturn trine. She's going to go through her Saturn return. Like, this would be somebody to circle back to like halfway through next year. Like, will she be done being a model and maybe stepping away from being a public figure? It'll be interesting. So there you go. Gemini on the midheaven. So she's kind of multi-talented. And I think she's probably more than just a pretty face. This is somebody who I would encourage to, get into the art world with. And she's got a kind of a unique mind, right? She's got this Mercury Uranus trine, and it's like on the button, 0 to 0. So she's capable of really original thought. And if it's through the 5th house and it's creative, it's even better. She doesn't have a ton of water. She's got Pallas. So she's psychic, right? She's got Pallas and Scorpio, which is psychic. And that's about it. She's got a ton of air. So she's very good at objectifying. A lot of fire. So she's combustible, and she's fairly grounded. But not a lot of water. Born in Washington, D.C. Is that interesting? How many people born in Washington, D.C.? I've had a couple clients that were born there. Anyway, all right, there's your star of the day, Bella Hadid. Hope you found that at least interesting, if not educational. All right, let's go through a few comments here. Elite Princess, there you go. Let's see. Anybody else? Her mom is a beautiful Dutch model, married an Arab tycoon. Yeah, her father's really important. Super important. Let's see. We got a fun going on here. A spot fun. What was that? We'll take a look at it. Who is that, Tom? David predicts religion will die. Yeah, it has to, right? There'll be a new religion, and it's going to be the religion of the false Messiah. So the religion that we have will die, right? Or at least they'll do everything in their power. But it's kind of like the final glory of the Christian soldier story. But the new religion people always need an organizing principle. So there will be a new religion of some kind. The religion that we have now will probably be forced to go underground at some point, right? It's the kind of the final reckoning when all three of the Abrahamics go through their own version of tribulation, right? Anyway, that's just my opinion. You could have your own. JJ being super productive. Oh, The Weeknd. That's right. Yeah, that guy's bad choice. I'm telling you right now, that's that Venus Pluto square. Bad choice, The Weeknd. Yeah, that guy's a little on the dark side, and I'm not referring to his complexion. Let's just put it that way. Okay, I'm out of here. Come join me over on 15 Minutes of Flame. We're going to talk about Joseph Smith's prophecy, which is pretty relevant for our time. I'm not going to tell you a little bit more. I'm not going to tell you anymore. It's a tease. All right. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to what's possible. Don't forget, hit the like on the way out. Subscribe if you haven't. And take care of yourselves. God bless. Love you all. Bye for now.